So, some of you will remember, oh my, it's been a couple of months ago now, where I shared how I set up my lighting and I kind of worked on this back window. I kind of got it done, but I just kind of want to go over that quickly because this is sort of all part of what I'm going to call Garage Phase 4. So, Phase 4 is pretty much, like internal, like painting and lighting. In getting everything sort of set up inside. So I've got pretty much half, and you'll kind of see. So I'd set up these lights. I installed these. Once again, I showed most of you these pictures. I put some cardboard up here and some boxes and a little bit of storage. This might get changed around, or it might get covered up more. But I do want a little bit of something so I can put some like either longer boards, or like right now it's got some old cardboard that I had got from working at the bicycle shop several years ago. But we'll see. This probably will remain a storage space, but I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do it in the future. But anyway, that's where the lighting is definitely going to go. And so I got those lights installed, and of course then this was the window that I did, which here is its kind of like final form when it's painted. And one of my previous videos, of course, it touched on all of that. So we got all those photos. Boom, boom, boom. Now, so this is kind of some rough pictures of what the lights look like, but I want you guys to pay close attention to how like nice and lighted it is compared to how it used to be, but then how it changes, because this next part is pretty spectacular. All that happens to make it even better. One Light, you're a silly person. Okay, so hold up here, because I want to make sure my pictures are in order. So you guys saw the inside of the garage. Obviously I had painted it. We can go back here. So here's what happened. So where's my... Okay, I did get into it. Okay, so I had painted this side, right? Yes, 3D. Exactly. Yes, set garage to phase 4. That's right, Sailor. That's right. So I started painting the ceiling. It took 2 coats. It took a whole week pretty much to paint the ceiling. Yeah, 3D, exactly. We'll see. We'll see. No promises, but we'll see. So I started painting the ceiling, and had a bunch of free paint, and found that I had enough. I had a lot of white paint in that collection of free paint that I got. So I went to work on the ceiling, and I'll come back to some of this. And I painted all the ceiling. I mean, there's just so much to paint here, though. It's really hard to describe. But going up on a really high ladder, trying to work up in there, paint, and it was a long time just to paint 1 layer, let alone 2 layers. It was a big project. I mean, just the lighting's great, but man, the painting just took forever. Yeah, I know, right? It does make a massive difference. But just look at all these bits and bobs I have to paint around. One side note, I won't say too much, but I was able to clean up some of the just kind of the routing and everything. Like everything, just like I was able to kind of go through and just make sure the electricity was good, that everything was set up right. So that was nice. But yeah, paint on this one side. Welcome in, Tooth and Nail. Yeah, it is Tooth and Nail. It is. It's very different. I agree. But yeah, I finally got it all done. I just paint. Right? It's just like hours and hours. But yeah, what a massive difference. Huge difference. Obviously, you can see so much better. It's hard to even imagine. It's hard to even remember what it was like now that I've done it. You can see it, like, when I get up under the door, you can see how dark it is. pretty ridiculous how dark it really was. So that was the big thing. So painting, right? So I got all this painted. I was feeling really good about it. And then I contrasting to the other door, you can see how massive of a difference it is. You know, this door was pretty rough, and the one that I just painted was about as bad. You see how dark it is up there? I mean, it feels like it's pitch black, even in the bright sunlight. It's super dark. So, yeah, lighting, all that was good. Everything was turned on. Everything's good. Everything's feeling good. Lighting was good, but I got looking at the door. I painted this door. Look how nice the door is. But look how bad these hinges look. And that was when. All right, Winlight, have a good one. Take care of yourself. That was when my week got even more interesting. Because then I decided to do something about it. Yeah, while I'm at it. Yeah. Oh, boy. Well, needless to say, that's why I took an extra week. Okay, so just showing, like, it was impossible almost to not hit the pieces with paint, which made it look bad. So I was like, well, what if I could take, you know, some of these hinges off? Maybe I could, like, I don't know, just like paint them a little bit or something. That's not the way it happens. I'm warning you. So let me see if I can best represent. Okay, so here's a couple things. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you the pictures. Tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. there is a video, a 16-minute video of a very concise, well, a pretty concise but yet thorough. You know, I sped up some stuff. I try to edit it nicely. But a 16-minute video of me doing one hinge. One hinge. So you can imagine what a door full of hinges did. Yeah, what is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I took this all off, 16, and I'll even get into it later. I took even other. So there was like tons. One hinge, he says. Yeah. So I started with one, and then I was just gonna do the hinges on the door. And then I got looking at it, and I was like, well, these side pieces don't look very good either, and they got this old rope, and it looks crappy. And I'm like, hey, those pieces up there look terrible too. I'm like, look at those awful springs. So yeah, it was a week of just craziness. That's all I can say. So I mean, just paint things. They just had old grease. I mean, everything looked terrible. So I concocted this little paint booth a while ago I was trying to paint something inside. So this is a little paint booth I created. The old cascade effect. Yes, it's exactly what happened. So I'm tempted. Here, let me give you like a little sneak peek, okay? You guys don't mind a sneak peek, do you? All right, I'm not going to show you the whole video, okay? I'm just going to give you a little sneak peek. I took it off. Sand, 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 brush, 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 sand, 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 paint, And then the gear. Look at these little wheels, man. I had to like clean out this thick grease. Yeah, everyone promised to watch the video. That's right. It's a cool little video. I'm pretty proud of it. It's not spectacular, but for me, it's probably, well, it's probably my only restoration video. But I went pretty detailed of how I cleaned it out, scrubbed it out, and you'll get a good idea of like what I'm doing. That's put it that way. Anyway, lots of work, lots and lots of work. So showing me a little paint booth here, and what I did is I got this idea from Adam Savage, from the guy who did the TV show Mythbusters. Well, one of the guys. Yes, that's right, 3D. That's right. Oh yeah, it's a great sense of accomplishment. 100%. 100%. What I actually realized later that it actually helped to make the garage project like take more shape. It's very hard to describe. Yes, someone who was watching Savage's Starville videos. That's exactly right. I watched all of them. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yeah, because he did that little paint box thing. I had made this paint booth before, but I never had the idea to put the hair dryer in it. Create a little oven. But that worked great because I was doing a hinge and then putting it in the box, letting it dry while I was like working on another hinge. Yeah, 3D, he's very, very good. So yeah, it was actually very helpful. It worked very, very well. But yeah, the side hinges that had these bearings, now this was very reminiscent of my days in the bicycle shop. Very similar to how a lot of like wheel bearings and stuff from old bikes in the 70s and such were. Very thick dried grease. I used a lot of something called Tri-Flow, which has a penetrant, but it has an oil in it as well. So it lubricates as well as penetrates and cuts grease. So it's a little bit better than WD-40 in certain ways if you're trying to do bearings and such, because it doesn't dry things out. It's okay, Siler. I got you. Thank you. I got you. I should turn that. I should change those settings. Thank you. Thank you. You didn't have to spend your points. So yeah, it was just these bearings were corroded. Well, a little corroded, but more like all the metal parts had at least 1 to 2 layers of paint. They had the original paint, but then also paint that had been painted on when they painted the garage doors green, like how many ever years ago. And then the dried grease, and they had greased the crap out of it. Look at this. So this is like a caked layer of original paint, green paint, and then old grease caked on top of it. Yeah, Tri-Flow is great. It's some of the best stuff for especially working on old parts like this. It's 100%. Really, really good stuff. So it was a lot of like chipping and grinding and just, it was a lot of work. Yeah, well, that's right, with rust. That's right. So I had to, many of the pieces, I had to go through a layer or two of paint. And then I had to, obviously, get the rust off. And this was one of the cleaner ones. Now, some of them I didn't have to get the black paint off because they weren't as bad. Some of them I could leave the paint on. It was a ridiculous amount of work. It was stupid. I can't believe I did it. It was just ridiculous. It's one of those things though, you get into it and I'm a plodder, man. I'm like a diesel. You get me into something and I can just grind it out. Now, it takes a lot to get me started, but you get me started and I would just go. I know. 3D, I was like this close to, like, I just had some black paint. I don't know what possessed me to take one off. Same look almost. Well, here is the problem though, is I knew that with the corrosion and everything, what I was afraid of, like what I wanted to do, and that was actually part of what was inspiring was is when I started working on it, I realized, this is very similar to what I'm going to be doing to my car. So it's actually a great practice. Yeah, it's a bit OCD, 100%. Yeah, it's a bit a part of me that just wants it, but also part of me just wants it done right. I want to do it right. I want to be able to open that garage door for the next 50 years. And I thought, as far as I know, I'm going to be living here for as long as I know. Just hit 40, so I could potentially need to open this door for another 40 years. And I want it to be done. If I'm doing it, I might as well do it now. Yeah, and I might as well do it right. Just paint it, just get it done. And then, one thing I'm learning is if you have a clean space, this is interesting. I came across this video as somebody who is a somewhat well-known, say therapist, right? And he was talking about how one of the first things he get people to do is just clean their room. And he said when they get something clean and in order, even if they feel like their life is really out of order, if they get something cleaned and done right, then it almost helps to pick them up. And I realized that as I started cleaning that garage and even the paint, I was like, man, this is elevating everything I'm doing. Once this space and once the space gets clean, like I'm going to be wanting what's done in this space to be done better as well. I don't know if that makes sense, but it has a ripple effect. Yeah, attitude adjustment or just a mental, it's really mentally refreshing. That's when I look at that garage door, I feel so good now. So, I went through, it 100% is. So when I went through, I cleaned the bearings once again. You'll see that in the video tomorrow. Re-greased it with my bicycle grease, which is perfect for these kinds of bearings. And then I got into even the screws, and I sanded down every screw, and I heat treated every single bolt. The only thing I didn't heat treat and do anything with was the bolts that went through the door. And you'll notice that even in the video tomorrow is that the bolts, but there was normally oil left over on the inside of the screw after I heat treated them because I quenched them in oil. Kind of did a heat like bluing on them where you heat them up and then stick them in oil or quench them with oil and they kind of blue. So you must spend the $20 for new. I didn't have the $20, so yeah, this is. I don't know if I can quite describe this, but this is all being done with virtually nothing or free materials, or the little bit that I get every once in a while is for absolute essentials that I can't get in any other way. And I just happen to have like these scraper set. Well, actually, there's a good number of tools in the garage now, including the one table saw and some other things that I got from a lot of things, a big lot that I purchased from an old guy that was moving out of his house. So actually, there was a lot of bits and bobs that I got from there, and I did pay for that. So some projects are perfect when you have more time. Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Looks nice. Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very pleased with how it turned out. I was able to paint each one of them black. What's crazy is just perfectly how, I mean, it's the weirdest thing. I went to pick up that paint, right? I picked up a bunch of latex paint that I've used, for the white, all this white paint and stuff. And in that collection, this is the crazy things that happen. In that collection of paint, and I'll have to say I literally had just enough paint. I'll show you later. I cannot tell you how it just feels divine. That's all I can say. This stuff it's like the perfect amount. So I got this lot of stuff from this guy, this old guy, and he just had stuff like these little wire brushes and other things in that stuff that I've needed. Well, I went to get this paint. They had some like random like spray paint and stuff in there. And I thought, oh, that's cool. And when you know it, I had just enough black paint. Just enough black paint to cover everything. And then there was another can of black paint that I had got for another project that I had just a little bit left over. And I think I used a little bit of that on the one piece. But I mean, I had just enough black paint to do all this stuff I'm showing you. And then when I ran out, I had this gold paint. And I'll show you later how cool it looked. And I was so glad that I ran out of black so that I could use gold. So I'll show you that in a little bit. But at any rate, so this is the hinge all put back together. Bada boom, bada bang, looking good. And then I got into the lock. So it has this locking mechanism, which I think you guys would recognize. If you look here, you spin this handle here, and there's a notch on the circular bit. I don't know if you can see it very well. Anyway, there's basically a notch like right in this area. So once you spin this, and these posts go into these two squares over here and over here, this little lock like drops into this notch so that it locks it in place. So you can lock your door, right? And then there's a key. The key has been painted over, but I think I can restore that as well. I think I have the keys somewhere. I hope I do. Anyway, so that's this lock. Well, as I started to clear away material, I was like, hey, look, this knob is like, I don't know if it's bronze or what the heck it is, but it looks really good. So I cleaned that guy off, and I'll show you some pictures later. It turned out really nice. And it looks really sharp. It's probably, yeah, it probably is brass. But it was like, I think it was like stamped brass. But turned out really good. I mean, but yeah, some of these bits were just, man, so caked. But yeah, look at that. Look at that. Made in USA, Russwin. I didn't even look that up. I should have looked it up. Because I don't know what time period this door was made in, but I would guess in the 50s or 60s. Because that's probably when the garage was put up. But yeah, it turned out really nice. And then this handle. Okay, here's another cool thing. So this handle is like, this was a little weird. This was like a bronze mix or something. Because when I shined it, it didn't shine the same way as the steel. It almost had a little gold tint to it. Oh yeah, this hardware is, like, this door is going to outlast me, 100%. Yeah, as long as it doesn't get rusty, you know, somebody doesn't leave water damage come through the roof or something, this door will last for another 100 years. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I don't know what material this was, but when I shined it, when I, you know, buffed it out, it had like this little, almost like a little bit of like bronze to it. It was weird. But yeah, that's what it started looking like when I started getting it back together. It was looking mighty clean. This was just before I took that off. But yeah, that piece looked really nice. And then, still looking good. I was really happy with it. Heat treated. I heat treated this whole metal bit. I took the back side of this out, and I heat treated this whole piece and quenched it in oil. If I remember right. Yeah, I did. I think so. And then, look, they had used a brass pin. I didn't realize this was brass until I popped it out. So I painted this black, and oh man, just that little brass pin, whoo, looking mighty fine. I was so happy. There was a missing bolt there, so I have nothing to replace that bolt with, so I left it out because I was like, hey, it's original. It's missing. So what am I gonna do? It was already missing before I got there, but that looks so good. Oh yeah, so I heat treated this big piece here. I did heat treat this a little bit. I painted these longer pieces, but yeah, this just looks really good. It's really solid, really well built. So, okay, so I got all that done. All the hardware was done. Like I said, days of work, except these two pieces down here. These two pieces weren't done. And the way this system is set up is you have to release the tension of the springs in order to get these bottom pieces off, unfortunately. And so I was like, I'm going to have to unhook the springs. And so it was one of those other things. I was going to leave the door just like this. But when I couldn't do these, I was like, all right, we're gonna probably end up taking all this hardware down. It's sad. Most things are made in one country compared to the other when each country of the world have their own manufacturing hubs. Yeah, I get it tooth now. I completely agree. I think there's certain aspects that make things like a pride of that country, and I like that. Certain engineers, there was like character in each. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Hopefully get back to that at some point. So, yeah, we started getting. I was like, all right, now I'm gonna have to go next level. Because look, I hit this track with all this paint. It was so full of grease. So, this is where I got crazy. I took all the rails down. I couldn't take them down all at once. I had to prop the door up. It was quite the ordeal. I had to prop the door up. Let me show you. I propped the door up. I opened it, propped the door up with like boards. And then there was bolts here that I had to take out. And then I could take this from here, it split. And I could take one of these off at a time. So I had to take this apart, take one of these rails off. I'd unhook the spring, take the rail off, go clean and fix this rail, put it back on, do the other rail, then turn around. How did I do that? I dropped the door back down. Oh, then I had to do these parts, drop the door down with the springs off. Have you ever tried to pick up one of these doors without spring assist? Needless to say, it's like, what is this? 6 feet of solid, I don't know what kind of wood this is, but it's some ridiculous hardwood. It is ridiculously heavy. It had to have been a couple 100 pounds. Yeah, at least. Yeah. Yeah, Phoenix. Yeah, it was one of the hardest things I probably lifted. I mean, I can squat a lot of weight. Obviously I'm pulling up with one hand. But yeah, it's a lot of weight. It probably is in excess of 200 pounds. I don't know how much though, but it's a lot. Anyway, so then I had to drop it down and I had to take off each upper rail. So that's what you see here. So what I did is I was running out of brushes for my drill. Most of them were getting worn down to nothing. Let me turn my music back on. Most of them were getting worn down to nothing. So I had to. I found some orange paint stripper. Grandma's 2-stall door wait without spring help. Oh, okay. So you wait. Wow. Okay. All right. Yeah. Right. Bathroom scale. Exactly. It's crazy. So I used that, and I'm actually glad I was forced to. I used orange this orange paint stripper. I sprayed it, and I went to town. I went on the grease too because it cuts through pretty much any oil-based stuff, and that's what you see there. But that's what these upper supports look like. I covered the rail, and I ran out of black, so I painted these this gold color, and man, I'm so glad I did. I took the pulleys off, cleaned the pulleys. I mean, everything was just, look at this grease. Look how it's just like, if you've never dealt with old grease, this stuff is horrendous. It's hard to work with. It's hard to get off. I mean, it's just caked and it's dried. It's basically like almost old paint. Not quite as bad, but it's almost as bad. And then that's what the rail looked like after I got clean. I cleaned them really, really well. I even used a little Scotch-Brite on them. There were some parts that wouldn't clean up as well as others, but it was pretty good comparatively. So I spray painted this gold. I'll show you the final product, what it looks like on the wall. It looked really, really good. All right, so that's with the 2 rails down, right? Got them down. Let me see. Okay, this is me cleaning it. This was how bad it is. This is after the orange. I got some of the paint off of this piece. But just look how bad. I use, of course, chemical protective gloves and all that stuff. Use to help restore older drills that oil and grease is nasty. Oh, yes, infamous. 100%. Yep. Yeah, you would know it well then. Yeah, those old drills inside would have that, yeah, the exact stuff in it. what was I doing? I was walking around trying to get something. Okay, so here, look how nasty. Just, oh, it's just thick. It was so bad. Just roll up your sleeves and go to town. Thankfully, I had this bag of old rags, because wow, I went through quite a few rags. Let me just say, that stuff was just gross. And then I would just scrub it. 1962 KitchenAid mixer. Ooh, yes, 100%. Yeah, it would have probably been a very similar product from that time period. Yeah, it just dries, almost turns into like a dry, cakey, like paint type thick. Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's tough to deal with. Yeah, just scrub. This was a lot of work. Put it right to the washing machine. Yeah, I was not gonna do that. That's for sure. I think this was a bag of old whitey tighties that I had when I switched over, or maybe it was just I think my son said maybe we were given some or something, like I don't remember what it was. I don't think so. I think it was my old bag. I stopped wearing whitey tighties a long time ago. So for some reason, me and my like collection habit of just keeping old crap, I still had them. Like tar, yes, that's a very good description of that old stuff when it gets dried and old. Yep. But after all of that, I even wire brushed the whole freaking chain. Now, I didn't heat treat these S hooks. I could have, but I mean, I did all this hardware, cleaned up that piece. I painted as thoroughly on the side of the door as I could, but I missed some of that. This I fixed all, because some of these bits I'd close the door or I'd put something on, it would get it greasy, so I had to patch the paint later on. But I thought that turned out really, really nice. I was like, you know what, I'm glad I ran out of black. The gold looks really, really good. It just adds like this little pop towards the top of the door, and I thought it looked really, really nice. I was very, very happy. Nice and sharp. Yeah, exactly. It's got this little like this refinement. So there's a good comparison. Do you see the difference? Look how dusty and painted and tar and gooey gunk, and then this and this. I literally took with that same drill brush that I had on the drill, the big round one, and I wire brushed this whole spring off. Nice. Oh, you never seen one? Okay. Not using that way. Yeah. So this is a very unique chain. That's the only part that I saw that I don't think I could replace. Maybe, but I highly doubt it. Very unique chain. It's probably the most unique chain I've seen. And I haven't really looked at a lot of garage doors, but I don't know if you can get any more like that. No, there's no rope, cable, nothing. It's just a big old spring. Nope, just a big old spring. Yeah, I don't think it would be exact replacement. Yeah, I agree. They're turned. They're actually made to run on these pulleys. They're literally made to run like inside of this smooth surface with the way these loops are designed. It's really interesting. But yeah, there's nothing inside of here. Just the spring and a big loop. The link snap, the door would come down. Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't be good. I mean, this has obviously 2 chains and 2 springs. You know, it's got 2 sides, but it wouldn't be very nice, that's for sure. Oh, when they snap, it's scary. Ooh, that would be scary. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a great idea. I'll have to, I could probably feed one from the top down. I could run a, that'd be a great use for an old bike cable. Standard today. Okay. No, that's good to know. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to running something on the outside too if it's safer, but but running a cable through the inside would be almost invisible and would withstand that kind of pressure, like a bicycle brake cable type of thing. Yeah, I could totally do that. I don't know if they'd be that long, but I could probably get one that long. Yes, it's retained if it snaps. Yeah, I get it. I don't know, maybe I should do something stretchier though. Right, so if it snaps, it's not just going wham, flying all over the place. Yeah. Yeah, it would just measure the amount that as it's stretched. No. You're good. You're good. No, that's good. A good thought. I didn't think about that. Good. Good. All right. So then because I was out of black paint, I got to this part and it had some paint on it and it was just silver. And then of course this black piece, and this is the Craftsman garage door opener, right? So I was like, you know what? I got this red spray can of paint here. I was like, I ought to just match that because that would look really cool. And so I did. I took this little piece off. I took this whole piece off, a couple cotter pins. Took this off. I didn't really mess with the garage door opener too much. It was obviously installed much later on. It's still got some grease on it, but it's not as bad. It's just a chain, like a bicycle type chain kind of thing. And I was like, you know, I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to mess with it. It's functioning well. Most of the hardware, other than this little bit of paint up here, most of the hardware looks pretty clean, looks pretty good. I didn't get a lot of paint on it. Everything's working fine, but I was like, you know, I will clean this up. So I painted this red. You have to draw lines sometime. That's right. A wild light switch appears. I know. This is... Don't judge me for the electronics in this in this garage. This was installed probably... I would guess sometime in the 80s. That's what I would guess. Yeah, this cuts off the electric to the whole garage. So I guess so you could run over here and flip this switch instead of having to run all the way in the house to turn the electric off. So that actually kind of makes sense. So if you had something going on, something shorted or whatever, you had a fire, at least you could run over with it's like a broom handle or something, you know. Safety third. Yeah, I mean, hey, you know, it is functional, you know. It is functional. And this is the first thing that the wire runs through when it comes through. So it's effectively killing electricity to the whole garage. So in that way it is kind of nice. If you're a beam pole, yeah, right. Now I usually have some kind of like, you know, like broom or something in there. But I was just really happy. This gold with the black and the red, I thought it turned out really, really nice. And there she is, just looking beautiful. When I unhook this, when I just use it on the spring, you know, without the garage door, this thing opens and closes now like probably twice as easy as it used to. Maybe not twice, but it's a lot slicker. And what I did is I just used it was a bicycle like lubricant. It was kind of supposed to be for chains, I think, originally, but it's just like a slippery lube. It's like a really light, slippery lube. I didn't even end up putting a heavy lube back in this. I just sprayed the chain and the wheels and coated the inside of the track with some of that lube and kind of just worked it around with like a rubber glove. And to be quite honest, it was slick. You know, it felt really, really nice. So I thought, might be enough. A little bit drier lube, not a big heavy grease lube, and I don't know. Maybe I should put a heavier grease on it. I don't know what's going to prevent wear. You know, does the heavier grease really prevent that much wear? I know it attracts a ton of dirt. So, they have switches with pull cords. Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Grease would be better for water repelling, but you're probably fine. Okay. Yeah, as long as I'm good with, like... Yeah, and that's how bicycle chains are too, right? Like, you want a good, thick, heavy grease when you're, like, on a mountain bike going through water and mud. Because, yeah, you get the water in there. But otherwise, like, if you're on a road bicycle, you typically want, like, a wax lube or a dry lube. Because you don't want it collecting all that dust. So, white grease is the best for range, especially in cold environments. Okay. white grease. Trade-offs. Yeah, okay. I will keep that in mind. Either way, if I can, whatever I need to do to make sure I'm not prematurely wearing the chain. But to be quite honest, the way it was with the thick cruddy stuff on there, I mean, if it's collecting a bunch of dirt and dust, that's gonna wear out your parts quick as well, because that's just gonna use it like sandpaper. It's gonna make the dirt like sandpaper, kind of, like an abrasive. So, at any rate, looking good. I was really happy. Everything looked good. The pulleys looked good. Everything looked nice. Everything seemed like it was in good order, good working order. The chain seemed to clean up well. I mean, pretty well. The chain I didn't get perfect, but once again, visually, it doesn't show up as much like as the rail. The rail, if it's not clean, it really shows up. Like, you see it. And you're like, ugh. So, you can see that the chain isn't perfect, but I think I did lubricate it even a little bit after this picture. So it has a little bit more of a lubricant on it now. Oh, lithium grease. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Okay, got it. Got it. Okay. I will, I'm sure I can come up with some. And just, even running, just kind of, put a little bit like on a small rag or something and just kind of work into that chain wouldn't be a bad idea. Just to keep it working smoothly especially over this pulley. And then, talking about paint, I was finally able to get my floor painted. So, rag application is a great idea. Okay, we'll do. I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, so all that paint I had left over, get this, once again, went through, white paint, right, did this whole side, and I got looking at the paint I had left, and I had like 4 cans that were all like partial gallons. None of them were full. A couple of them were pretty full, and I got looking at them, and they were all like either like gray or like a darker bluish gray. And then I had a little bit of white. Hey, Fawn, welcome in. Yes, I am. Back to it. So I took all the paint. I had a little bit of white left in the bottom of this big 5-gallon can. Dumped all the paint I had left. I dumped it all in one can. And it is funny because I wanted gray. I didn't plan this. I wanted to have a more gray color on the floor. And I couldn't have planned it. It was just what was in this lot of free paint that I had. Dumped it all in, mixed it up, and I had about, I'm going to say 3 to 4 gallons. Thank you, Fawn. Good to see you, too. So about 3 to 4 gallons, swept the floor off, and I went to town. And I will tell you, it was really hard to paint that first layer. It was actually very challenging. I mean, I was trying to use a roller, and like every time you roll, you just pick up dirt, and of course, it's kind of that, because I don't know if a lot of you knew, but I took cement and I dry poured about 4 to 5 bags of cement. About 4 to 5 bags of cement, and I'm just gonna do that. Like augured it into the ground. So it used to be dirt/gravel. You can kind of see it over here. It's basically a dirt gravel. It's okay, 3D. And it was just, I mean, it's just dirty. It's basically dirt. The gravel was long, been soaked with, I don't know, grease and whatever else, and sawdust that I added to it. And it's just filthy. So I just wanted something to kind of not have to be walking on dirt, right? So the cement mixed in there, and then what I did do, and you can see the line here, I poured a pure cement border to it later on after this was dried out. And so I have a berm of just pure cement here, and which kind of helps to keep it from like crumbling at the edges. right? Because this is would be a really nice hard border. And so that's what I did. And it kind of is like a really super hard pack is what it turns into. And so once you paint it, and if I can keep getting multiple layers of paint on here, it basically turns into, latex paint turns into a really thick like latex coating. As long as you can get lots of layers of paint on here over time, if you don't abuse it, you can't be hammering on it and other things, but just driving a car in, lightly doing some car work, and the plan is to do some car restoration work, use this as a bit of a, and I'll kind of give you an idea here what I'm going to do with it, but in other words, it's stuff that I'm not going to be using. I'm not going to be abusing the floor as much. Grease Notes probably explains the long cure time. Oh yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah, I didn't think of that at all. You're right. Well, also I found out too, we had a really bad rainstorm the one day before this was painted. And this was damp. So I think what you're getting is, no matter how much, if you have tons and tons of groundwater, there's enough water and springs underneath this ground where it's going to come up from the bottom a little bit. So it was a little bit damp in certain spots here. So, and I have a French drain right outside this wall, as you all know. That's like garage project phase 1. But my neighbor down over the hill has a terrible time with water. So it's just the nature. There's mining that's in this area that was pretty shallow, 100 to 200 feet down. So it's kind of created some weird water issues in the neighborhood. Over, these are old mines, like really old mines from like the late 1800s. So, or maybe even mid to late 1800s. But yeah, the concrete, what I'm saying is with the moisture, it could have even gotten moist from underneath too. So yeah, combine the grease and the oil, and combine the potential moisture that was coming up from the ground. Maybe it rained. I don't even remember. It was raining a little bit when I worked on the garage. I knew at some point there. Yeah, it could have been a number of things at that time period that really made it even worse. But at any rate, it finally dried out. So Fallout 4 garage and Starfield garage. Yeah, exactly, Sky. That's a very good way to put it. So the only other thing I thought about doing is, because I have a little bit of red here, I did think about, I've kicked around maybe painting one strip of these cement blocks red. Just one line. I'm very tempted to do that. Look sick now, regardless. Thank you. I totally agree. And I feel like in the future that what I'll do, even if I have to buy paint in the future, is, I'll keep an eye out for free paint. I was able to put 2 layers of paint. Yeah, racing stripe. That's right. And red would be just perfect. It would fit this whole like little red Craftsman theme. Oh, and I forgot. I didn't get a picture of it, but I have a red. I had that spray can of red paint. I was able to get my Craftsman box painted red finally. So yeah, free paint is the best paint for sure. So now that we've went over garage project phase 4, what I did, now we can kind of talk about, there's the garage door opener piece that I did along with the Craftsman garage door opener. That's pretty cool. This is very old school Americana garage-esque right here. Craftsman is like a very much of an old school look. Sears best. This is pretty old. This is probably from the 80s. This is probably the height of Sears. Is like, they were all that in a box of Cheetos. I could talk about that. All right, let me show you Wheezy, because I did take Wheezy out to the garage, by the way. If many of you didn't know, this is a fully custom case that I built for a very specific use case that I was going to use under my desk, and did for a long time, and the monitor for some videoing, but I decided to take this out to the garage because I had an old laptop out here, but it was so slow, literally so slow, I could not hardly even get like Spotify to work properly. So, at any rate, I transferred Wheezy completely to the garage. And I was like, I know, right? You like my little holder there? This is like pointed right at my house, like right at the direction that I need it. It's still not consistent enough. I can watch YouTube sometimes, but it will drop out every once in a while and mess up my YouTube video. So it isn't completely fixed, but I think in the future, I think I'll just end up running and I don't really need YouTube out there anyways. And an occasional search for something online is fine. But for right now, I really don't need that. So eventually, I'll probably run a physical line, you know, once I get enough money, or find some, you know, some pipe so I can run, you know, a physical connection through the ground. But that's going to be another project for another time. This is great. This is perfect. I pretty much just need music and the occasional search for something. You know, I could look up parts or something or whatever. But I was really proud of myself. I got this whole thing out there, got it all hooked up. It's a bit of a hodgepodge looking thing, but I tell you what, there's one crazy story here. Is I got this speaker. This speaker came from a local Goodwill distribution center. This Goodwill is a center that accepts donations. So it's one of those kind of like bigger like donation centers, but I think it typically doesn't sell the higher quality stuff. What it does is they pretty much get it in, they sort it, they take the good stuff and send it to like the fancier Goodwill stores, right? They take then the rest of the stuff that they don't care about or they don't want to sort or whatever, and they just throw it in these big bins and sell it by weight. Okay? So you could buy a bag of clothes for like $2. Like it's that kind of stuff, right? Well, if it's by weight, if you get a heavy electronic thing, it's not necessarily the best, but it's not too bad. Well, this was small. I was able to find, it just so happened to have an adapter in one of the bins. We're talking just big bins. They just throw it, they just like literally dump it on these big bins and you just have to sort through it. It's a bit of a mess. But I found this thing and I looked this thing up. Here it was like $100 or $200. I think it was like $100 Bluetooth speaker. But this thing sounds really nice, and it accepts a normal like a I don't know 9-volt or 12-volt power adapter. And so I was able to find it at the store. I was able to find an adapter, plug it in, and you know confirm that it worked. And I bought it for a couple dollars because it's so light. So this was just one of those like crazy rare things. I bought this like a couple years ago, but I love this speaker. This thing is like as nice as some smaller systems. I mean, it's really, you would not think that this little speaker, but if I had anything louder, I would bother my neighbors. And I could still bother my neighbors with this speaker. It's that good. So I was able to get it all hooked up. Anyway, it's nice and light and it works in there. But Wheezy went right on this little cart thing, this little thing I had made for the laptop. Went on there just fine, and he has an intake fan on the other side, and then the exhaust fans are here. And I had built this case with the power supply coming out the front, the power button on the front, and then the I/O on the back. It's just weird. It's a very weird case, but this actually works perfectly. It's a bit of a rat's nest under here, but anyway, it works. So anyway, there's Wheezy. Okay, so now let me show you what the future looks like. That's phase 4.